Welcome to episode 296 of Treaty Talk. It's me, John Keogh, in the hot seat this evening, and delighted to be joined by Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. Matt, how are you, first of all?
I'm good, John. I'm good. I'm just, really lapping up the busy period we have across all the games at the moment. It was a fantastic weekend when you can get to see games practically every day. It was. We were critical last week about the way the football was organised, but I think the hurling was quite well organised last week, and plans for it this week are good as well. So, happy days.
Very good. We'll get moving with our intro.
The impression the game you get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawty Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Curry. Curry leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. There's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
There's nowhere really else to start, Matt, I think, this afternoon. Then last weekend's round 3, Pontsecours Hospital Limerick Senior Hurling Championship action. We saw 6 games, Matt, in Senior A. There was victories for Doon, a big one over Napier. Patrick Swell really started to hit a bit of form, much needed form, you'd say, and with victory over Munger at St. Paul's. And of course, on Thursday evening, you had Kilmallock and probably hitting a bit of form themselves in victory over Ahane. If we start in Senior A, we were at a couple of them together, Matt, but probably the result of the weekend is Doon beating the Pierce. In a game, I think we both said after, didn't really hit the heights, bar maybe what happened in injury time.
No. There was a very, very exciting finish to it. But from a hurling point of view, it certainly didn't hit the heights. But I'd say there was a lot of residual tension there from last year. Although you had that Dara Stapleton afterwards sort of denying that, but that's something that becomes ingrained if you're involved in something in a semi-final like those two teams were involved last year, and it must have been absolute. I can only imagine the heartbreak it was for Doon. They suddenly had found themselves that they had got over the loss of 4 or 5 key players, and here they were on the threshold within a puck of a ball of a county final, so there had to be some bit of a carryover, but having said that, whilst the hurling mightn't have hit the high spots, as a game of hurling, it was a good, hard championship game. There can be no question about that. And I suppose at the end of the day, you would have to say that Doon just about deserved it, because they had established a 7-point lead, which almost going down the home straight. And the Pierce hit a purple patch. It started with Jerome Boylan, who had just come off the bench. Within a minute of coming off the bench, he hit a long range point, and it was as if it queued them up for the rest of them. They hit 7 points in a row to draw level, and twice in the run-in and the closing stages, they went ahead. Wayne Cairns put him ahead first, and then James Finn put him ahead in injury time. And one would have to say that you would say at this stage, Napier-Sick, it was Napier-Sick's game. But, Adam English had different ideas, totally different ideas. And very interestingly, John, Napier-Sick scored 17 points. They had 13 scorers, which is phenomenal. But we have to talk. You can't talk about that game without talking about the performance of Adam English. It was simply off the charts. His performance and his game is probably going to be defined by his contribution there with the last free and long range shot. And like, you know, it took a very special player to take the shot on, because, you know, most people were saying, you and I were probably saying, this is going to be a draw. You know, it had drawn, written all over it. And he took it on just from, was it from 80 metres nearly, halfway line?
Yeah, it was a sensational.
You know, and he planted it. It was an excellent point, but I wouldn't define his, you know, that was simply incredible on his part. But his performance right through the game was outstanding. You know, he was involved in everything. He created the goal. You know, his footprints were all over Kilmallock on Saturday and Friday evening. But it was a very, very good game. But John, the Piersic are gone nowhere.
Absolutely.
Far from it. And like Peter Casey was there on the sideline, and I know he's a bit off it. Will probably, you know, it'll best him to make it for the championship. But Adrian Breen at one stage, and we know what he brings to the Limerick Championship. He was warming up at one stage, if you recall.
He was, yeah.
You know, but he didn't come on. But apart from that, the Piersic are gone nowhere. It was a game of hurling between two excellent sides. You know, I know Doon set out with the sweeper and all this sort of thing, which some people don't like, but, you know, they are a very, very good hurling team. And like, I hadn't seen them until the third round against the Piersic, you know, but I had no problem at all after seeing him the other night, you know, in knowing where they are at the moment, which is with full points after 6 games, or after 3 games, 6 points. And notionally, and no disrespect to anybody, with the 2 bottom teams to come. So you could be looking at Doon going through to the semi-final directly. 1 win will take him to the semi-final. 2 wins will give him such momentum going into a county semi-final. So, but Piersic are not out of this race at all. They're going to be involved in the quarter-final. They may not be too disappointed if they don't get a semi-final spot, because they look to me like a team that might need an extra game on the home straight. And they certainly will have a big say in the championship. And, you know, they're still the team to be beaten in it, let's face it. Now,
They are one of the big things I took from the game on Friday. It was interesting to me anyway, certainly, looking back at my notes after the game. Their highest score, the player with the most scores for them was a player that got 3 points. You know, you said it did a massive spread of scores, but their leading scorer on the day was Shane Dowling from goals with 3 long threes. That maybe not a major concern for Shane O'Neill and his backroom team, but maybe a minor concern going into their next fixture.
Maybe a minor concern. They're facing Kilmallock this weekend. Maybe a minor concern, but I don't think it'll be too big a concern. I don't think it will be. Like they've got such a spread of scores, you know, and what you had there, you know, in the home straight when they were 7 points behind, you had players prepared to take it on. Like Jerome Bylan is a case in point. He was on the field about a minute, and he had a pot from 80 yards, I suppose.
James Finn scored with his first touch.
With his first touch, you know. So, like, they had people that were prepared to have a go. So, yes, they won't be happy, you know, to lose champions, you know, and a team that has been so successful as the Piersic are never happy to lose. But, you know, it's a wake-up call. You know, that they won't have it all their own way. Not that they ever expected to have it all their own way, but I thought it was a most enjoyable game from great intensity, great work rate by both sides, good, hard, old-style championship hurling. But when it came to the finesse and the final points, they were lacking maybe. But that was because of the tension, I suspect.
One other player I want to talk about before we move on from this game, Matt, was Dara O'Donovan. just an outstanding performance all round from Dara, who's missed so much hurling, obviously, this year through injury. It was a joy to see him in full flow during that game.
Absolutely, just simply magnificent, absolutely magnificent. And he has taken on the role this year of captain, and by God, what a captain he is. You know, if you were one of the troops, wouldn't you love to be going into battle with a captain like that? And he was absolutely fantastic, I thought, throughout, you know, and he just gives us a sense, you know, of why we were beaten by Cork twice. I think, you know, anybody that had any reservations or any vestige of doubt about that, you know, but this is not his first game in this championship, turning on the display like that. He's done it in all three. Like, Darragh O'Donovan is in top form.
He is indeed. Speaking of top form, Matt, Patrick Swell had lost their opening games against both Doon and Piercy, I should. So Kieran Carey back at the helm. Obviously, this year, my God, did they hit a bit of form in Claughan against Mungret St. Paul's. Mungret St. Paul's, unfortunately, were the ones that Patrick Swell reacted to, but the performance of Cian Lynch, in particular, for me, being at the game, Aaron Gillan, Diarmuid Burns, Patrick Kirby with 1-6 from play. It was an outstanding individual performance from individuals throughout the game, but collectively was the big win for Patrick Swell in that victory.
Huge win and a huge score to post up, because 30 scores seems to be the norm these days in big matches. We're talking about people, if you don't score 30 points, like you won't win a hurling match. A lot of it is a fallacy, but you know, and Patrick Swell got 30 scores. They got 228, which was a phenomenal score. Now, I'm just wondering, you know, about Mungret St. Paul's. You know, like, if you lose your first two games, you're promoted. You're on a good run, and you know, you hop into your new environment, you know, full of enthusiasm and expecting more of the same. To lose their first two games by a single point, it must be absolutely heartbreaking. And I'm just wondering, did that, to a certain degree, feed into the Mungret St. Paul's performance? I suspect it did. Now, it wouldn't account for the margin in the end. You know, I think what you had was a good bit of Patrick Swell finding the form that took him to the final last year, and Mungret St. Paul's, I'd say, suffering from a hangover from they were heartbreaking defeats. Let's see, I saw one of them. You probably saw the other, did you, against Ahane? Mm-hmm. You know, heartbreaking defeats, and you know, they could have had such a different story had they gone in against Patrick Swell with 4 points, seeking to make it 6. Probably a different game, I would suggest. I'm not suggesting that they would have won, but they certainly would have put it up much better to Patrick Swell, I think.
Yeah, they're just been at the game as well, Matt. They just couldn't get any flow going. You know, Patrick Swell were just dominant all over the field, and as you said, maybe that bit of, you know, confidence lost after not coming out the right side of those two victories hampered Mungret St. Paul's a little bit. But as you said, it wasn't a deciding factor. Patrick Swell were awesome, and from a team that had stifled in the first two games, you know, to me, it was their coherence throughout the field, Matt. You know, you'd a full forward line of Patrick Kirby, Kevin O'Brien and Tom O'Brien running right at will, but the service they got from out the field. Young John Murray, who's been very impressive even in the two defeats coming into that Mungret game, and Diarmuid Burns, they both bossed midfield. Nigel Foley was clearing things up at centre back. Two wing backs, very solid. Full back line, very solid. And Jason Gillan giving him a huge platform from in goals with his booming but very, very accurate puck outs. I couldn't tell you the amount of times he was able to find Aaron, his brother Aaron, in space in the first half in particular, when Patrick Swell had the breeze. But very impressive stuff from them all over the park.
Absolutely. You know, not that we ever doubted that Patrick Swell had gone away, or that we doubted that they would have a say in the championship. And they're rightly back in the groove now, you would have to say, even though they're not playing this weekend. Their game has been put off, I think, until Friday week, their game with Ahane. And they will go into that game with Ahane full of confidence, and you'd be expecting them probably, and, you know, we don't want to pass judgment at this stage, but you'd be expecting them that they will keep the roll going, and then they have Kilmallock in the final round. for Mungret, it doesn't get a bit easier. You know, they come to Kilmallock on Friday evening to play Doon, or Saturday evening to play Saturday afternoon, 4:30 in Kilmallock. Anything other than a win, you know, and they're gone. You know, well, maybe a draw might give them a chance of survival, but they have the Piercing in the last round. So, like, if you wanted a mountain to climb, you know, play your first 3 games and lose them, and then possibly play the 2 top sides in the final round. This is it. It's looking bleak, unfortunately, for Mungret St. Paul's, but I am predicting at this stage their sabbatical in Group 2 will be short.
First game up last weekend, Matt, was the Thursday night fixture in McNeville Park between Kilmallock and Ahane, a game as well that we were both at. I think going into the game, Matt, people would have seen it as a very, very tight game, but Kilmallock hit a bit of form, certainly in front of goals, although they missed plenty of goal chances, as they admitted to both of us after the game and chatting to a couple of them. It was better from Kilmallock than what we saw in their opening 2 games, but still a fair bit off from where they want to be.
A fair bit off from where they want to be, but a giant step towards where they want to be from the last game, because I thought against Mungret St. Paul's, and this is no disrespect to Mungret St. Paul's, they were lucky to get out of that game with Mungret St. Paul's. And to me, they were far from impressive. Now, there's a couple of things that fed into it on last Thursday evening. First of all, there was the return of Dan Joy in the full back line, which tightened that area of the field. And then we had Robbie Hanley. And whilst Robbie was very quiet in the first half, he thundered into the game after that, you know, and I suppose that's only to be expected while the fella's trying to get up to the pace of the game. But I thought the way the Kilmallock set out, they looked possibly better than any one of the other games. Now, unfortunately, Graham Mulcahy, he was struggling before the game. He was past fit, but he only lasted 15 minutes. And Conor Handley-Clark came in. What skill Conor Handley-Clark has! It's just mind-boggling, isn't it? You know. But he came in, and we hope that we wish Graham Mull, you know, the best for a speedy recovery. And also on that very note, it was sad to see Richie English going off the field after picking up a knock against the Piercing, and we wish Richie the very best of luck to get back, because God knows if there's good in injury, he's had enough of it, you know, at this stage. It was an encouraging performance by Kilmallock. Of course, the early goals, you know, they had 3 goals got after 12 minutes, and they were 10 points up at that stage. So, like, that was the ideal start. It was the ideal platform. Now, whilst you have to credit Ahane, you know, like, because they did not at any stage down arms. At no stage. You know, they kept battling away, and, you know, eventually brought it down to 4 points. But then you see it. Kilmallock then got a trademark Oisin O'Reilly goal. Catches the ball out in the left from a long delivery from Paddy O'Loughlin. Beats 2 defenders, ends up in front of goal with a clear shot into the net. You know, but he had a lot of work to do to get it. But it's typical of the type of goal that Oisin gets. And you always sense that if during that game, that if a hand came too near, Kilmallock were going to drive on. And the real test of Kilmallock now, you know, they have 4 points. You could virtually say that they're certain to be included in the they're going to be in the quarterfinals. The real test of exactly where they're at will come this weekend when they play in the Piercing.
It will, Matt, indeed. Just on Ahane for a moment, you know, we mentioned Kilmallock's goal chances just a moment ago, and Oisin stuck away 2, Shane O'Brien got 1 as well. And of course, Phelim O'Reilly got the opening goal.
Phelim got the first one, yeah.
Yeah, very early in the game. Cathal Ryan, a young Ahane keeper, I think it's his first year playing senior. He made 3 or 4 saves at the start of the second half, Matt, that were just out of this world. You know,
yes, he saved from Shane O'Brien, and he saved from Gavin O'Mahony, you know.
They were outstanding saves, but Ahane as a whole, they'll be very disappointed how they were opened up. But I think that's the second time I've seen Ahane this year. They played well against Mungret. Mungret stayed in that game for a long time. Really could have went either way, but not on any occasion did Ahane, in the closing stages, leave Mungret get level with them, or indeed take the lead. They kept that 1 or 2 points ahead throughout, and eventually saw it off by 1 point. A very good performance against Napier as well. But one man we have to mention from the Ahane performance, Matt, is Gary Brennan, the former Clare footballer, who's been living in Ahane, in the Ahane area, we'll say, for the last couple of years, while still playing his club stuff in Clare. He's obviously a huge addition to the football side of the house in Ahane, but he's certainly proven to be a huge addition to the hurling side as well.
Oh, yes, indeed, and it was sad to see him departing the scene prematurely due to injury, because he was, heretofore Ahane have been very much the Ahane attack, and their scoring prowess has been mainly about Tom Morrissey, and certainly, and Tom was outstanding in fairness, and but Gary Brennan is taking a certain amount of the attention and the pressure off him a bit. And now he got a very good goal, Gary Brennan. It was on the end of a very good move, actually, and I think, was it Cathal O'Mara put it into him in the finish, or was it Jack Butler? Someone of the corner forwards put it into him, picked him out nicely, but it takes a good player to get into the position that he got into, and it's not very easy, be it Barry Hennessy, but he did it, so he's a big addition. I was saying here last week that I think that Ahane were going to surprise people. They're going to surprise somebody that they're very, very near a second win. Small bit of second thoughts about that. Hope I'm wrong. But small bit of second thoughts after what I saw last week.
Yeah, and interesting.
Now, you'd have to say that, I said Tom Morrissey was good, and like Kieran Barry I thought was excellent. You're Evan O'Leary and Dan Morrissey, but I thought they have been a bit of they've really troubled Kilmallock for the last couple of years. But you would have to say last Saturday night or last Thursday night, they didn't trouble Kilmallock. I thought Kilmallock had a level of control once they got that 10-point lead. It looked to me from that point Kilmallock were not going to be beaten.
No, I think that was the general consensus around McNeville Park. Quick look at the table. So, Matt, after the round 3 fixtures, you see Doon obviously leading things with their 3 victories. The only team left with a 100% record, with Kilmallock on 4 points now after their second victory, joining the Pierce. You can obviously Patrick's well and Ahane at 1 each, and Mungret St. Paul's, from their point of view, sadly, with 3 defeats from 3. Looking ahead now, Matt, there's only 2 fixtures this week, as you've mentioned, starting off on Friday evening with that Napier Kilmallock game. We'll have a look at them up now. We'll just show either side or in between us there. Napier Kilmallock says it was due to be on the 2 Gaelic grounds. That game now has been moved to Doon on Friday.
That's right.
And then obviously Saturday, as you've mentioned, Mungret St. Paul's versus Doon. If you can just start on that one, Matt, as you've already mentioned it, you have a bit of a fear for where Mungret St. Paul's are at, and Doon, will be very, very heavy favourites to come out with it.
I expect Mungret St. Paul's to be competitive. They won't want their season to be defined by the defeat to Patrickswell, especially their neighbours. There's bragging rights and everything feeds into it, But I honestly feel like that the attitude in Doon at the moment is it's absolutely spot on, and I will be terribly surprised if Doon don't win that and seal a semi-final spot, because if you look at the table, that is what's at stake. That's the permutation. If Doon win, they're into the semi-final.
That's it, exactly, Matt.
Because they'll go to 8 points. Kilmallock and the Piercy have to meet, and something has to give. Patrickswell have 2 losses, so a win for Doon, and it's quarter-final day. Semi-final day. That
head-to-head with Napier victory could prove very, very important. They've also beaten Kilmallock, so as you said, Matt, a victory for Doon will see them into the semi-final. The first game on Friday evening in Doon is, of course, Na Piarsaigh and Kilmallock. They've had some titanic tussles over the last 10, 15 years, Matt. They've really probably been the most, consistent of the senior teams certainly since this format came on board 5, 6 years ago now. Maybe a bit longer than that, and certainly even before that, Kilmallock and Na Piarsaigh, it was every second year for about 4, 5, 6 years there at one stage, which team has taken home the Daily Cup, and we're expecting a big game on Friday evening from that one as well.
We are, because there's jeopardy at stake. They met last year in the final round, and both of them had been through to the semi-final in Doon, and then Na Piarsaigh won. Now they met in the league final earlier on this year, and Na Piarsaigh won. But John, we've seen, how many times do we have to see it, that the league form counts for very little when it comes to the championship? Absolutely. I think this is a game that's going to be tense. It's going to be similar to Na Piarsaigh and Doon. You heard Dara Stapleton saying that he thought it was Doon's first win over Na Piarsaigh in 8 years, I think he said, as far as I recall. And this one I find it very hard to call. I think Kilmallock have a point to prove. I think they have a point to prove. Like they've reshaped their team, and I thought, I think I said it to you before the match, even the last day, that I thought that what they had out and what was out in front of us seemed to be getting the balance right, and I have a feeling Kilmallock might end a losing sequence against Na Piarsaigh. I just have that feeling. Yeah, it's going to be a tight one. Both sides with probably something to prove. Na Piarsaigh with nothing to prove in general at all. But I think Shane O'Neill will want a reaction. He wouldn't have been overly happy with how they performed full stop against Doon. He would have taken a draw, I think, the way the game had gone, especially with 18 or so minutes left, down 7 points, and the reaction he probably got in the final quarter is exactly what he wanted. So maybe Na Piarsaigh will have a bit of something about them heading into the Kilmallock game. But I think, Matthew, I think you're right. It's a very difficult one to call. Two teams with so much ability, so much history, and so much coming through as well. I mean, I think the biggest thing from Na Piarsaig's point of view was probably the performance. Some of their younger players coming off the bench. You mentioned Jerome Boylan, you mentioned James Finn and Wayne Kearns as well. Yeah. But maybe Na Piarsaig's older heads. We saw William O'Donoghue. I think at one stage he beat 5 or 6 players to set up a score for Kevin Downs. That leveled the game, Matt, when they got that 7 point in a row. So, as you said, Matt, earlier on in the podcast, Na Piarsaigh have gone nowhere. No, gone absolutely nowhere. They're going to be involved in the quarterfinal, and so are Kilmallock going to be involved in the quarterfinal, and that could possibly have been sealed this weekend had we had a full program of games, because the permutation is simple. What Ahane and Mungra to lose this weekend, it's over. Yeah, actually, it's over as far as that would mean that Doon would have one semi-final place. The other semi-final place would be up for grabs, and the 2 quarter-final places would be decided. Well, there'd be a 3-way fight for the second semi-final place, and there'd be 2 quarter-final places, and Mungra St. Paul's, unfortunately, would be relegated on the head-to-head against Ahane. But as the Ahane game isn't on this weekend, we have to wait another week to see how things pan out. But we could get a clearer picture, because whoever will win the Kilmallock and the Piarsaigh game is going to be in pole position for the second semi-final. You'd have to say that they have a 2-point advantage over Patrickswell. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Kilmallock and Patrickswell facing off in that final round game could end up being an epic. There's a wider one, Matt, and just before we get on to the Senior B review and look ahead to this weekend's action, it's going to keep coming up the conversation as it looks as it is right now. The top 4 ensconced as they have been for the last 5-6 years. Anyway, it is a topic of conversation with anyone we talked at any games. We all know it's going to be the top 4 in the semi-final supposedly as well. We'll see what comes from Senior B this year. It's a dilemma for Limerick GA, Matt. It's a very tricky one, but there is the argument too, and it has to be said: is it up to the other teams that
to break that monopoly rather than Limerick GA doing something to change the format.
Yeah, there's an element of that. Septon in it. Pat Ranahan was in with us last week, and we were talking in the context of football. And as you know, the format is practically the same. And he said in nearly 15 years playing senior football that he rarely went out and played a game that there wasn't some element of jeopardy in. So from a football perspective, he was very, very happy with the two group system. But maybe should we go for a two group system rather than having an A and a B, or Group 1 and Group 2?
Maybe see the semi-finals. But keep coming out with
the argument against that is it eliminates practically one-sided games, and it has it has clubs playing at their own level, because it was seen when clubs were making the transition from Premier Intermediate to Senior that the gap was too big. And for that reason, I think it will be left alone. But it's looking very, very like, that we could possibly have the same 4 semi-finalists again this year. It's looking very like it. Now we'll be talking about Group 2 in a minute, and we'll be wondering who could upset it from there. Like, are we moving on to Group 2?
Yeah, look, it's probably a moot point, Matt, as you know, the rest of the divisions outside of the Premier Intermediate, which has 8 teams and they play off against each other. The Intermediate has gone to that 2 groups of 6. The Premier Junior Hurling has gone to 2 groups of 6. And the Junior A Hurling is 2 groups of 6 as well. So, I mean, the format obviously is a happy one within Limerick GA and the delegates, the club delegates who decide these things at different times, and usually a convention with motions and everything else with it. So it is here to stay. The debate is a valid one, and I think we will continue to come back for it. But I suppose, just to finish on it, I don't think either of us have seen a fairer way or a fairer idea coming up with it as of yet.
No, this is it. I hear people, criticizing it, and I say, tell me the alternative. I'd love to hear it. And we get blah 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 blah, but nothing cogent or coherent, other than something that would make it worse,
Absolutely.
Now, I would say all right there that the Premier Intermediate is a fantastic competition, but it has created scheduling problems. And the scheduling problems are caused by the fact that there are 7 rounds, as distinct from 5 in the others. Those 2 are creating a bit of a bottleneck, and then you have the issue of the Piercing playing in both.
Yeah.
And it's traditional that the week before the Senior Hurling Championship starts, the first round of the Premier Intermediate starts, and the final round is the week after the Senior Hurling Championship. So it has dovetailed in nicely, but we've had a couple of postponement of games this year, which, now they're catching up. There's only one outstanding game between the Piercing and the Dunloo. But I've heard people saying, should the 4 best intermediate teams be put up and it made 2 groups of 6? I'm not sure. It's a competition that never stops giving, as I say. I've said a number of times in this podcast, and if it's not broken, why fix it?
No, I think the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship is the golden goose of Limerick GA at the moment. It keeps on giving, as you said, Matt. Look, we'll move on to Senior B, as it's called. There were victories for Kilmallock, Pallaskenry, Ballybrown and Monaleen. From those 3 games, Matt, we'll start, as I started, with Kilmallock, Pallaskenry beating Drumnathlacka. A shock in many ways, Matt. You wouldn't have seen that, just maybe on form. Kilmallock, Pallaskenry, they'd won their first game against the Dare, lost their second, obviously, and have had a whole host of injury problems. But, I think it's fair to say Drumnathlacka were favourites going into that, given the form they've shown since reaching the Senior B stage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you look at our predictions last week, all 3 of us gave it to Drumnathlacka. And we gave it for the reason that we believed, that the form that they had shown in the championship so far, coupled with the problem of the injury problems that Kildimo Pallaskenry have, and like they're not going to weigh those problems. Carl Downs is still not back. Tony McCarthy is still not back. Peter Nash only came on as a sub. So I think it was a great revival on the part of Kildimo Pallaskenry, but it puts them right back in the hunt now. Puts them right back in the hunt now for at least the quarter-final place. They play South Liberties this weekend on Thursday night. And were they to win that, they move to 6 points. Yeah, it'll be a very, very strong position going into the last round. And now, Ballybrown were put to the pin of their collar at the weekend by South Liberties. But I think there's a bit of a traditional thing that Liberties have become a bogey team for Ballybrown. They knocked them out of the championship 2 years ago when no one expected it.
Yeah, that one's going back a fair old while, Matt.
Yeah.
Long-term rivalry. I think it was 2009 when South Liberties beat Ballybrown in the intermediate hurling championship final, and they've had fierce battles ever since. But on Ballybrown, we've moved on to that one with South Liberties. A brilliant effort by Liberties, who, of course, as we know, have struggled throughout last year and this year, to be fair. I guess the Ballybrown team who have been beset by injuries. No question that James Coughlin, the latest one to fall down to what I'm told is a serious enough injury. And of course, Kyle Loftus heading back to Australia. Stevie O'Reilly, I think, was a notable inclusion in the Ballybrown side for that game. More importantly, for Christy Keys and his backroom team, Matt, it was a game Ballybrown in other years may have fallen foul of, but they still came out with the victory and maintained their 100% record. Yeah,
absolutely. That is. I saw him against Kildimo, and I have to say I was very, very impressed with him. And I offered the opinion a week ago on this podcast, that it will take a good team to stop him from getting the one promotion place. And at 6 points, it's going to be very difficult. And were they to win this weekend against the Dare, I think they'll more or less have it sealed. Because I saw it there at the weekend, and I'll talk about him in a minute. But I think Ballybrown will be capable of putting the issue of at least the quarter-final place to bed at this weekend, and probably getting the one promotion spot.
Yeah,
because they have it over Kildimo. They have it over Monaleen, who would be the two biggest contenders, unless all of them ended on 8 points. But it would mean Ballybrown would have to be beaten in the last round by Drummond and Clacka.
Yeah, who of course could be pushing for that top spot as well at that stage. So we could be getting into a complex situation there. On the final game, Matt, you mentioned it there, Monaleen and Adair at the weekend. A better performance from Adair than what we saw against Drummond and Clacka, but led by Donegal, O'Dollig, Monaleen, they look a serious outfit again.
They look a serious outfit, and I made the point here last week that they were champions 2 years ago. They consolidated last year. They need to do better this year, and all the pointers are that they will. Because the configuration and the composition of that team is such, that they have a lovely balance between experienced players and in the like of Larkin Lyons, who I thought was outstanding, the like of Andrew Latouche Cosgrave, Luke Murphy, players like that. And then you have a whole raft of young players, young guns, let's say. You have the like of Donegal O'Donnell, he got 1-6 or 1-7 all from play. He was unplayable. You've got Matthew Fitzgerald, Joe Fitzgerald, Lachlan McHale, Dara Ferland.
They haven't coming out their ears
at
the moment.
They haven't coming out. I thought Leo Morrison had a very, very good game at centre back or at cornerback. If anything, 7 points win doesn't flatter Monaleen. They conceded a penalty in the last minute, and John Fitzgibbon buried it in the net. Now, The intervention of Declan Hannon. Declan Hannon lined out at corner forward, moved to full forward, coming up to half time, got a very, very good goal. He got a couple of points from free, got a point from play. Immediately, first play of the second half, got a goal, a good goal, and brought the margin down to a point. And you set yourself then, right, this is a day they're coming back. Monaleen found a new level, and I was impressed by it. They found a very, very new level. And they weren't at all flattered by winning by 7 points, in my view. And you have to feel sorry for a day. It's very, very hard to put your finger on what exactly has gone wrong. You see players there like John Fitzgibbon, what a servant, Declan Hannon, Mike Keane, who I thought was excellent, Ronan Conley. When you have players of that caliber there, but it just isn't going right for them at the moment. I can't pinpoint it anywhere, for one, in my simple mind. But what I do know is, that they're going to be hard pressed to beat Ballybrown. And if they don't, they're going to be in a relegation battle.
They are indeed themselves in South Liberties, the only side victory. We'll have a look at the fixtures.
I'd love to know, John, what odds would you get at the outset of the campaign that Adair could possibly have played 4 rounds and won no game? And that is the stark reality that's staring him in the face, unless they pull something special against Monaleen or against Ballybrown.
We'll have a quick look at the fixtures. Starting off with Thursday, Matt, Kilmallock and Ahane against South Liberties and Ballybrown. On Friday evening, you have Monaleen against Drumnathlacka in Cappamore. And
it's in Cappamore.
It is. And then also on Friday evening, Ballybrown versus Adair in McNeville Park. All very interesting games, Matt. It has to be said. They're, starting with the Kilmallock and Ahane game on Thursday evening in Ballybrown. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that you must remember that the Kilmallock and Ahane have a number of dual players, and the football monkeys off their back at the moment. They can't qualify for the group stages, and they can be relegated. And they're involved the following week in a dead rubber against Ula in the football championship. So, the sole focus of Kilmallock and Ahane is now going to be on hurling. And they've got themselves into a position, despite being well beaten by Ballybrown, that they're just, you could say, possibly only one win away from a quarter-final place.
Yeah.
That is the possibility, and that won't be lost on Natal O'Grady and his management team. I think Kilmallock and Ahane will drive on, and they'll take huge confidence and inspiration from the win over Drumnathlacka, and I think they're going to inflict a 4th defeat of the campaign on South Liberties. Now, obviously, Liberties will be looking at it and they'll say, gee, we're on Ballybrown so close. We might be in with a chance here. And they'll be saying to themselves, can we do the Houdini that we did last year at the very end? But I have a feeling Kilmallock and Ahane will be alert to that, and I think Kilmallock will win that one.
The other 2 games, Matt, we'll fly through them if possible. Monaleen, Drumnathlacka, probably, you could argue, to tie the whole senior hurling championship this weekend.
It is, absolutely. It's a top tie. I've seen both of them. I saw both of them against Adair. And I saw what it took out of it, to beat Adair, and then I saw the manner in which Monaleen beat Adair. And if I know these things, all games are different, but I'm hugely impressed with Monaleen, I have to say, and I make the point that I made last week. They won the All-Ireland in 2022. That didn't give them a God-given right to win at senior level, but they consolidated solidly last year with 2 wins. Now, anything, 2 wins is not going to be success this year. They have 2 wins under their belts with 2 games to go, and the possibility, of picking up a possible 8 points, and I was hugely impressed with them last week. And I think, unfortunately, from a Drummond Lecker point of view, I think Monleen will win this one.
Given what you said about Ballybrown there earlier, you're only seeing one winner there as well, I presume.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a dynamic between these teams. Sometimes there's a hidden dynamic there. Like, just when we reflected on it, we found that Ballybrown and South Liberties, could be one of those things. I'm worried about it there. I have to say, John, and like if Ballybrown, like who reached the quarterfinal last year, gave a very good account of themselves against Patrickswell, have real ambitions of joining the big boys next year, they have to win this one.
No question of that. That's it for the Senior Hurling Championship talk. You will see myself, Matt's, and Tom Clancy's predictions over the coming days. They are only predictions. People take predictions very seriously at times. It's not meant to offend anyone in case anyone does get offended. It's only our 3 opinions. And the knowledge we have, and Matt, to be fair, it's not always the full knowledge we have of what's going on with each team either.
Oh, not at all, no.
No,
we're only calling it as we see it and from what we've seen with the various teams.
Yeah, but we're not out to offend anyone. We said that from the start, and just it's needed to be reiterated sometimes, Matt, I think.
Oh, it does.
But moving on to the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship, Matt, I'll put the table up straight away, and there's one clear team, really, from what we've seen from it, that have set the championship alight so far, and that's Newcastle West.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I've seen him early on. I was very impressed with him. There's a gritty determination in Newcastle West this year, John. The circumstances in which they missed out on the knockout stages last year. They lost. They won 4 games in the championship last year and still missed out on the head-to-head on a game that they had lost by a single point. So. There's a lot of hurt there. They have 4 straight wins, 4 very, very good wins. They're playing a Piershick this weekend, and a win will ensure that nobody can take a semi-final place off them, and I think they're going to get it. Because the Piershick are like my own club, Glenroe, are struggling. Now, both Glenroe and the Piershick have a game less played. Their outstanding game is due to be played, I think, on the 26th of September. I might be subject to correction on that. But, they're really, 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 really struggling.
I'll get the fixtures up, Matt, while we go through it. You mentioned Glenroe already struggling. Blackrock, a couple of years down now from senior. We'll talk about that one first, maybe.
Yeah, Blackrock are struggling. 1 win and 4 isn't what the county runners-up of last year would be hoping for. 3 games left, among them a game against Newcastle West. So that's not an ideal position for Blackrock. I saw them last weekend. They were handed a boost on the home straight when Effin were reduced to 14 players with about 16 minutes to go. But it was Effin who galvanised and ran out 5 points winners. Now, when you factor into the fact that the last puck of the game was a penalty from Paddy Lee, he converted. It was an 8-point game, and that after being trailing by 8 points after coming up to half time. They're going to win this one. I think the Glenroe are really struggling, but there is an old thing between Glenroe and Blackrock that makes it very, very difficult to predict these games. But I predict on form, and I say on form. I qualified by on form, and forget the bragging rights and forget history and all that sort of thing. If you saw the history of it, it's so weighted in favour of Glenroe. On form, it has to be Blackrock. And if Blackrock are to maintain, an interest in being in the last 4, they have to win it. Because were they to lose this game, they will be down to being on a maximum of 6 points, which will not get you there.
No. Second game in the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship, Matt. You've already mentioned Effin, and of course they've 3 victories from their 4 games to date up against the Grannon Ballingarry side that probably struggled in their opening couple of games, Matt, but they've come right back into it.
They've come right back into it. I've seen them against Garrispillane. Very, very impressed with the way they set out and the way they won the game. And they're on a bit of a roll. Confidence is high. Their first target coming up would be to avoid going back down again and to consolidate. That business has been put to bed, you could say, at this stage. But they're up against an Effin team. I have to talk, and I hate talking about singling out individuals, but the performance of Paddy Donovan last week against Effin was one for the ages, John. I think he got a goal and 10 points, goal and 6 from play. He was just irresistible. His form, and Blackrock, they were 8 points up coming up to half time, and Effin pulled it back to 6, and Paddy got a free, bringing it back to 5. And I just don't know what the Effin defense or the Blackrock defense was thinking of. They all seemed to move out, and who was in behind them for a lofted ball over the top with Paddy Donovan?
Yeah, he's not a guy you're going to leave in there, Matt.
No. But I suppose it's the quality of a good player that he spotted what was happening, and of course the ball was fed into him, and there was only one result, and suddenly 8 was 2, and I know Matty Farrell replied with a free or with a long range point from play for Blackrock, but the 3-point lead at half time, Blackrock were rocked by the fact that their 8 points had been whittled down to 3.
Yeah.
It was the best. I've seen Effin a couple of times this year, and in my opinion, it was the best performance that Effin had put on this year. Because we were inclined to define Effin by the Effin of 12 months ago when they won 6 of the 7 games. Yeah. But this is the nearest. Nicky Quaid was outstanding. Jack Quaid, goal, of course. That seems to be a standard for every game, Yeah. Fergal O'Connor. I thought Alan Byrne at full back was outstanding. So I think Effin will probably win this one. It'll put Effin on 8 points.
Lead him to a semi-final spot.
Every year except 2. Last year in 2014, 8 points got you into a semi-final spot.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Adrian Barrett will be keeping them grounded this week. They got the bragging rights. Get it out of your system Sunday night, back down to brass tacks. And I suppose having a fella like Nicky Quaid on the field, there'll be no one better to bring him down to brass tacks and to focus on the job. I suspect that Effin will win this one.
Final 2 games, Matt, which are both Saturday games. Sorry, Saturday and Sunday, I should say. Brough and Garrispillane and Kilmallock on Saturday evening, and Sunday afternoon, Newcastle West and the Piershick. Probably the top one there, Matt. Brough and Garrispillane we'll speak first of.
Brough and Garrispillane. The situation with Brough and Garrispillane is like Brough of 6 points, Garrispillane of 4. After the first 2 rounds, that is certainly not a situation that you would have expected at this stage of the campaign when Garrispillane were unbeaten and Brough had suffered a defeat. I saw Brough. I saw him recently against Blackrock. I think they looked very good. They won by 3 points. They shot 23 wides. You would say, how does a team look good if they shoot 23 wides? But they were creating the chances, And I'm sure now there has been a management change in Brough, So, but that change took place before the Glenroe match. So, the new management will have bedded in. It is nearing a last chance for Garrispillane to stay afloat in the championship, which to me is a surprise. Because they're starting off so well.
We saw them the first day against Effin. And it was Effin getting the late goals to make that scoreline look a bit different. A couple of late goals, I should say.
Yes.
Spillane full value for that victory.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair to say they probably haven't hit the same levels since that game, Matt.
No. And like they had the lead against Blackrock at half time, and Blackrock had a player sent off a minute or two after half time, and it was Spillane were holding on at the end. You know, Jimmy Quilty had actually come on before halftime in that game, and he was absolutely outstanding in leading the resistance, and they pulled it right back. I think they only won by a point in the finish, and they were really, really hanging on. So I saw Spillane then against Granabel and Gary. You know, few could argue that Granabel and Gary deserved to win. And of course, then Spillane played Newcastle West last weekend. You know, and certainly put it up to Newcastle West for a long time, but in the end had to concede. You know, but when I say concede, that you know they couldn't catch him, and Newcastle West won by 4 points. I'm finding it very hard to know where Spillane are.
Yeah,
I'm finding that's my point. I know that Bruff can play very, very good hurling. If Bruff produced the type of performance that they produced against Blackrock, I have a sense that they're going to win this one. You know, Sean Finn is up at centre forward. And
very interesting on that move. He was centre back up to the Glenrue game all year. Bar, you know, I think he might have missed certainly most of the game where he pulled up lame with an injury, but you know, a guy like Sean Finn, you could put him anywhere, Matt, and he's going to make a difference.
Oh yeah, but as his father pointed out to me the other evening when I met him, that you know that Sean started as a forward, but like he's providing shape and he's providing a focal point for the forward line. You know, apart from what he's scoring, you know, he's involved in so many things, like I think it was an inspired move. Now you lose somebody like Sean Finn off at the back, it's bound to be a huge loss. But Sean Casey has come in and is really coming into his own this year. So and he's scarcely 18, is it, or very, very young anyway. But I have a feeling, you know, it's going to be very tight. I'd be at that game. I think Bruff will shade it.
Yeah. Final game of the weekend in the Lions of Limerick Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship. Matt, is top versus second bottom. Newcastle West versus the Piercy. Only one winner here, surely.
Yeah, on paper you would have to say that. You know, the stakes are so high that you know, Newcastle West will want to book that semi-final place, especially with a return to football the following week. And there's still a bit of unfinished business in the football championship. They're not certain of the semi-final place just yet because of that draw with Ula in the third round. So yeah, I'm going for Newcastle West. There's no use in beating around the bush in this one.
Heading on to the Nick Green Intermediate Hurling Championship, Matt, we won't take too long in this, but Maru Boher with 2 wins from 2 top their group, and Fiona Castlemahan topping the other group. Anything surprising there for you over the last week? And looking
well, I suppose, you know, nothing in the last week, but if you take an overview of it, you have a Fiona team who survived with a penalty shootout from relegation last year, and here they are, top of the tables, through to the knockout stages. And but just on, you know, a sad point on the intermediate championship, the Maru St. Kieran's game was called off at the weekend due to an unfortunate accident that happened in the Ard area on Saturday, I think, involving John Duggan and the chairman of St. Kieran's GA Club, David Wolfe. So I know David pretty well over the years, and he has like, you know, he's given so much. He's given so much to his club and to the GAA, and what a powerful leader to have in a club. He's the brother of Jim Wolfe, the former chief executive of Dairy Golden, who is now very much involved behind the scenes with Limerick. But I would like to wish David and John Duggan a very, very speedy recovery to as quickly as possible. Our thoughts and our prayers are with them and their families at this time.
Absolutely echo Matt's thoughts there. Moving on, Matt, away from hurling and away from the men's side of the house, we're moving on to the Camogie, which has reached round 2, heading into round 3 this weekend, the senior hurling, or the senior Camogie championship, I should say. We'll just have a look, Matt.
No, it isn't into round 3 is next week. It's not this weekend.
The following week. Apologies.
Yeah, but there have been a few things decided.
Yeah, there are, like, these are the round 2 results. We're seeing 2 teams, Matt, on full points in Bruff in their group and in Group 1, and of course Newcastle West leading things in Group 2 after 2 rounds of action. Matt, impressed from what you've seen so far from Bruff and Newcastle West?
Yeah, well, I was impressed with Bruff, and I made the point with Tom, about the performance of Avian O'Connor. She got the winning point again last weekend. Now the situation in Bruff's group is Bruff are through to the cup, which is the A Championship semi-final, because they have full points after wins over Napirshick and Monaghan. And Crocora have to settle for the plate semi-final. Because in the final round, Bruff travelled to Crocora, but in the other game in between, there's a city derby with Napirshick home to Monaghan. So whoever wins that game will join Bruff in the cup semi-final, and the loser will go into the B Championship, or they like to call it the plate.
Yeah,
we're clear on that. Now, if we flip over to the other round, the other side, Newcastle West are through to the cup semi-final, and who'll go with them is anything but decided, because you have Killeedy, you have Ahane on 2 points with a victory over Killeedy, and you have Killeedy then and Adair drew in the last round. So everybody has points there. Newcastle West are in the semi-final. Who's going to join them? An awful lot will depend on the final round. Adair host Ahane on Saturday week, and
fixtures up there right now.
Newcastle West make the short trip to Killeedy for a repeat of last year's county final. Now, you could have a situation whereby if Ahane were to win in Adair, and if Newcastle West were to win in Killeedy, last year's runners-up Killeedy would have to settle for the plate. But we knew from the very start that there was a big side had to fall.
With the way the draw went.
So Killeedy are in danger of they being the ones now at the moment.
You said it right there, Matt. The Camogie Championship, you've seen Killeedy try to break through that Newcastle West Ahane stronghold, getting to the final last year, but to see the 3 of them in one group, it's an amazing thing to see, really, that you're going to lose one of those powerhouses. It's obviously not going to be Newcastle West, but if Ahane or Killeedy are to fall, which one of them obviously will, it's a big blow to the championship even.
It is a big blow to the championship, and it'll be very, very interesting when the 2 from Group 1 are crossed with the 2 from Group 2, to see what that will throw up. Now, Ahane really pushed Newcastle West last Saturday evening. It was Rebecca the Lee goal that proved decisive in the finish. Really, they won 112 to 11 points, but they were pushed pretty hard, and even Mulcahy still slotting over points for fun. So there's a good build up. At least there's something at stake coming up for the final weekend in both groups. But the one thing that we can absolutely say is that Bruff and Newcastle West are through to the Cup or A Championship semi-finals.
And just on that, Matt, that's from Bruff's point of view, it's a huge boost from their point of view on the Camogie side of the house for them.
It is. You must remember that they've some very good county players. Like you're talking about you're talking about Marion Quaid, you're talking about Mairead Ryan, you're talking about Mary O'Callaghan, who got their first goal at the weekend. You know, and you look at the Limerick All-Ireland winning under 16 team, and you've got Abigail Buckley and Tara Hines and Evan O'Connor, who she came on. I was at the game. She came on against Napier, and scored 7 points in the second half. She got the winner again the other day.
Gives you an idea of the talent that's within that Bruff squad at the moment.
Yeah, she competed in an All-Ireland Junior Championship with John the Baptist. And I think she scored 1-8 in the final out of their 1-9, which they won. Yeah.
There to watch out for sure. Matt, we'll finish up with ladies football. We're at the quarterfinal stages.
But before we go to ladies football, John, can I just mention during the week I was out at the Premier Minor Football Championship final.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Between Father Casey's and
absolutely.
Mungret St. Paul's. We had an absolutely cracker of a game, and I suppose the honours rest where they belong, because with about 3 minutes to go, they had a 6-point lead or coming up to injury time, and Daniel O'Connell somehow directed the ball through a forest of defenders into the net, and Rory Mullins, who's the son of Dermot, who we well know, he got a point after that. And Father Casey's, from being home and hosed, you would think, were suddenly, and right at the end, Conor Mangan, who was the Mungret St. Paul's captain, he had a shot, and like the previous one, it went right through everybody and just wide of the post. It was that tight, but overall, it would have been an injustice to Father Casey's. I thought they were a very, very good side. They had some very, very good players. Matthew O'Connor at centre back was outstanding. And talking to Father Casey's connections afterwards, they were saying that he's very, very near the senior team. They had two very good players at midfield, Cathal Wolfe and Liam O'Connor. Adam Murphy, centre forward. We know him from the minor championship. Ron O'Connell, the captain, and Enda O'Connor. They're very, very good players. I think in total, there were 6 players on view that won Darcy Cup medals with Limerick last year. Yeah. 4 for Father Casey's and 2 for Mungret St. Paul's. But it was a very, very good game, Tom, John. And you'd be saying to yourself, the standard of football in Limerick is low. But by God, looking at this, you'd have second thoughts. And one thing that I would say anyway is that the conveyor belt in these two clubs is in a rude state of good health, and it was Father Casey's 9th minor championship success in 13 years.
It's amazing, Matt. It's amazing it hasn't transferred to senior level as of yet.
And I've been hammering this point. Where are they all gone? Our Father Casey's going to explode one day onto the senior scene. Maybe this year.
Could be. The time will tell on that one as well, Matt. The other final in McNeville last week saw a big victory at minor level for Napier over Ahane. Yeah. An impressive performance by Napier in their own right as well.
Absolutely. A very, very impressive performance. And it wasn't expected. But what it tells me is we saw the performance of Tommy Glenn, at full forward, got a goal and 6 points, mainly from play. He was a Darcy Cup winner. It'll tell you the value of playing at that bit of a higher level. Now, there was a lad, I think he was Collins, that got 4 goals, was it? But they were a very, very good side, and they went into the game, I think, as outsiders. Ahane were favoured to win it.
Yeah. Just shows what can happen at that age, Matt. Anything can happen on any given day. We must mention as well, Matt, by the time this goes out, this game will be on the Premier Minor Hurling Championship final, of course, between Monaleen and the Piershig as well. You know, a whole host of talented players on show on that one. You know, of course, the game, the trophy they're playing for is the Eamon Butler Cup, of course, was the under-19s trophy named after a good pal of yours and a good pal of mine. Played hurling with Eamon with all Christians. You knew him when he moved out to Bruff, Matt, a good buddy of yours like he is mine. That is now the competition cup since the minor age has gone back to 18. It was confirmed to me there yesterday evening that is the trophy both teams will be playing for. But an epic game ahead in that one. And of course, when they met earlier on the championship, the first round, 3-15 apiece in what was a cracker of a game.
Absolutely, and you know it's going to be the same this Wednesday evening. But you know, I think what makes it special, like, is that a special individual is being honoured in Eamon Butler. You know, I think how appropriate it is. He made such a contribution, not just to hurling and football and Bruff, but very, very much to Camogie. Also, you know, he was so engrossed and so involved. You know, and what a tragic loss, first of all, to his family, and secondly to the GA family.
Absolutely, Matt, absolutely. We will finish on ladies football, Matt. We're at the business end of it, as we like to call it, starting with the senior championship.
Yeah, we're on to the quarterfinals this weekend, and you know, we had a bit of a surprise in the final round when Monaghan were beaten. They travelled to Ula and were beaten by 10 points to 7. So Ula finished top of one group, Ailbees finished top of the other group. And the system was, if you finished top of your group, you played fourth and the other group, and you had home advantage. If you finished second, you had home advantage against third, and that's how it panned out. So Ula are at home to All Mill. All Mill, who had no win during the course of the 3 games, but like Mungret, they lost 2 games by a single point. You know, and they suffered a heavy defeat in between when they were without the services of Roisin Ambrose, who's such a key player for them. So they're travelling to Ula, and you would have to say, like Richard Bowles has done such a great job over there with Ula, like that. You recall that after winning the 2022 Intermediate Football Championship, they really, really hit the ground running last year and were in the semi-final in jig time. And they're going to be, you know, a win over All Mill will take them there again this year. So you've St. Ailbees then are playing in another quarter-final in Caharelli. They're at home to Drumbradford. Like, contrasting fortunes, first against fourth. St. Ailbees 3 wins, Drumbradford no win, no points. So it would look that's Ailbees to lose. But of course, you know, there's a hardcore of experience there in the drum side, in that, you know, they won back-to-back intermediate titles in 20 and 21. That was because of the restructuring and the COVID and all that sort of thing. So, you know, and obviously we'll focus their minds different now that it's knockout stages. But you know, the 4 winners go into the championship semi-final, and the 4 losers go into the B championship semi-final. The other quarter-final see Monaghan. Now they're taking on Galtee Gales. They're at home to Galtee Gales. And this is a clash of the champions of last year, the senior champions and the intermediate championships. It will be a very, very interesting game. Monaghan will start there as favourites. There's no doubt at all about that. But you can be guaranteed that Galtee Gales will give a damn good show of themselves. And like the Galtee Gales story, John, is phenomenal. It's simply phenomenal. They didn't field an adult team until 2015. And here they are in the quarterfinal of the senior championship.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's a fantastic story. No matter what way you look at it, no matter what happens on Sunday, all the games are at 4:30 on Sunday. It's a phenomenal story. Yeah. And the final game, of course, is Ballylanders home to Keogh and Castlemahon. Now, that's going to be a tough one. Like Ballylanders lost to St. Ailbe's in the first round. They had a good win over Galty Gales in the second round. It was a huge crowd in Ballylanders for it. I was at it. And they were lucky to come out of Old Mill with a win, 1-9 to 1-8. Really put it up to them. And they play a few on the Castlemahan side now that on the opening day of the campaign in the first round, they went to Ula and came home with a draw.
Mm-hmm.
They lost in the meantime to Monaghan, but had a good win over Drumbradford in the last round. So that's one that's very, very much in the balance. But I think with home advantage, I go for Ballylanders in that one.
Busy weekend of action and the ladies football championships. That's pretty much it, Matt, from us this Wednesday evening. On any other business you want to highlight or bring up ahead of the weekend?
I'm going out now to see a match between Glenrue and Kilmallock in the Minor A hurling championship. It's a top of the table clash, final round, and it's the man in the middle is none other than the man that occupies your seat, Mr. Clancy. That's
the reason Mr. Clancy isn't on hosting duties. In fairness, he's just back from holidays, Matt. It would have been a stretch to get to both. And he'll be back in situ next week. You can be sure of that. Keep an eye out for our predictions and for post-match reaction from games over the weekend. From me, John Keogh, thanking Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer, Vale Star. And thanks to all of you for tuning in on whatever platform you're tuning into us. And don't hesitate to get in contact with us across our social media platforms over the weekend with your thoughts and opinions as well. Very much appreciated when you do. Thanks for tuning in.